So I want to pivot into our third segment here. One of the things that we talked about when we first connected was the Ikigai concept, the Japanese concept, and I thought I took good notes. I went back. I know we discussed this. I just to be transparent here in real time. I don't remember exactly how we evolved to talking about that. I'm hoping that you do because I definitely want to unpack it, and I know that's something you're passionate about. But is it part of the book, or am I making that up?
No, you're not making it up.
Okay.
There's two parts to it.
Okay.
One is it was a 5 series on my blog, so that's
Okay.
one. And I went through every aspect of it one day at a time, so it sort of built. But you and I were talking about how do I get people who are really confused and can't express why they do what they do to
Yeah.
express that. And I
Yeah.
said, oh, I have this wonderful chart that
Okay.
once they see it graphically, it really begins to gel. And yes, it is part of my second book because the book is will be published by the American Bar Association. One of the criticisms of the book was, I don't know where to start to talk about myself. How can you help me? And I heard
Mhm.
that more often than once. And that means that there are people out there, thousands of people out there who really want that. So here it is. There we go.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up for those that may be watching the video. You'd be able to see the graphic here. So it's a great diagram with overlapping. Uh, you're probably better qualified to walk us through this. Can you just kind of give the overview, starting with the meaning, and kind of unpack this for us a little bit?
Sure. So Ikigai in Japanese, and I'm not a Japanese speaker, so I'm going on what it says here. It means the reason to be. What makes you tick? Why do you do what you do? And I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek, Sinek. I'll show you his book, Start With Why.
Hmm.
It's just a great book. And if you don't have time to read the book, watch the YouTube. He did a TED Talk. It was absolutely incredible. If you watch TED Talk, then you go on to read the book because you
Yeah.
realize that there's so much that you can be saying about yourself. Back to what we said earlier about why. So this
Right.
is the one visual way to think about yourself in all spherical aspects of what you do, why you do it, what makes you go. So if we could start at the top, do you mind my starting just digging right in?
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect.
Okay, let's start at the top. We all know what we love to do. That's all we want to do. I just don't want to go out and snow blow today. It's just not what I want to do. All right. But I got to do it. I'd rather sit home and I'd rather work on a crossword puzzle or I'd rather write a blog post. That's the nerd in me. I'm sorry, I can't help that.
Mm.
Anyway, I love doing it. I love expressing myself. So that's the yellow circle. Let's talk about the biggest circles. What does the world need? Well, the world doesn't need any more crossword puzzle writers. The world doesn't need anybody else writing blogs, although I do it as part of my brand. Now, let's go down to the bottom. What can I be paid for? The combination of what the world needs and what the world wants to pay you for is also really impactful. It's very important so that you're offering the world what the world wants and needs and will value your expertise. Then moving up to the 9 o'clock, what am I good at? Well, I wasn't always good at everything I do right now, but as I told you, I practice and I make it. So what I love to do, what the world needs, what I can get paid for, and what I'm good at all begin to mix. And if you mix the colors in a pot of paint, you're going to get all these various things coming together. So let's look at
Mhm.
the little, there are almost diamond shapes between the big circles. What the world wants and needs and what you love to do is what your mission is. So nonprofit people, if you're listening, you get this loud and clear. You're constantly providing what the world needs because you love doing it. And that's the mission of your organization. And it's your personal mission as well. What the world needs and what you can get paid for is a vocation. Now you can be a comedian or you can be a chef and you may do it on the side as a side gig, but that's not necessarily your profession. But you really love doing it and the world needs it and they'll pay you for it to come into somebody's house and cook a meal and leave and everything's clean like you never were there. That's a really great gift you can give somebody. What you can get paid for, what you're good at, is your profession. And I hope doctors are listening to this and lawyers are listening because you better be good at what you're doing
Mhm.
because otherwise you got a malpractice issue going on. All right. So it's all about you being paid for the value you provide and you're good at. And that's how we choose people. And what you're good at and what you love doing is the passion. You hear what I love doing in the passion of what I speak about. And I happen to think I've been told I'm okay at what I'm doing. So now let's go a little deeper. Let's go to little triangles. The combination of mission and vocation is this thing that you want to talk about, but you're not so sure the world's ready for you. The thing between between vocation and profession is you love doing it, you do it, but you're not sure you have a career in it. The thing between passion and profession is you get great satisfaction from it, but you're not sure whether people are going to really benefit from it. And the thing between passion and mission is what you absolutely will do first out of the blocks, but you're not making any money on it.
Mm-hmm.
You take all this stuff, passion, mission, vocation, and profession, what the world needs, loves, wants, pays for, and what you're good at, and you get to the heart. The filet mignon of this steak is the Ikigai, because you're able to give yourself credit and ability to speak about all the things that you perceive yourself being involved with. And for some people, this is emotional. One woman into tears when she realized that she could express and articulate what it was that she wanted to do with her life. Mm-hmm. And this helped her. It helps a lot of people because we're taught not to talk about ourselves. We're taught not to be emotional. We're taught to be quiet and listen. You hear me, I'm not quiet and I don't listen too well. I am able to get to my Ikigai. I am thrilled that I do it. That's why I love what I'm doing, because I'm finally doing, after this crazy career of mine, I'm able to do what I think I was made for to do here without getting too sappy. I don't ever want to stop.
Yeah.
Because I found that Ikigai, I found the heart of all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell in your energy for sure. And I think energy drives a lot of this. But what's cool to me is it takes skills. It takes it takes the environment that you're in and kind of the world around you. It takes feelings and there's a lot of things that kind of fold into this. And I think it's a great graphic. Before we talked, it's not anything that I had been exposed to. I am familiar with the Golden Circle and Simon Sinek's Why. It's definitely something I subscribe to and have actually used in some of my training that I built out in a previous role, because being able to really find that source of energy is important, because it's not something that you have to create or recreate every day, right? If you're, for example, if you're doing something that you're good at, like I could be good at numbers, but it doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy being an accountant. Matter of fact, I've got a family of accountants, but that's not anything I was interested in. I went more engineering route, which involves numbers. But also on the like systems and people side. And so I think this is, I hope that everybody takes the time to look at this. If you're just listening to the podcast, I will work with Mark to figure out the best way to get this accessible. I'm sure it's on his website, but I think it's a great graphic. It's something that, like I said, I wasn't aware of, but I think it speaks. I think it's very simple. I think it speaks well about when you talk about the filet mignon, right? This theme of this series is at the core, right? And that's not anything that I had, that had any connection with this prior to naming this series. It's just, this embodies the heart of this series and what I wanted to communicate in terms of, what is at the core of what we want to do, what we are doing, what we're good at, what the world needs. And I think this is a great way to illustrate that. So I appreciate that.
So elegantly simple, like most Japanese things. And it's so intuitive, but we can't do it unless we have a pattern. And we need a graphic to help us think out of the box a little bit. So what I encourage my clients, especially the ones that are really, really stuck, some have been engineers and they just don't want to be an engineer anymore. There's a lot of medical profession people who just are sick of what they've been through the past year. They just don't want, they're burned out. They can't do it anymore. This would be a good exercise for a doctor, a nurse, some sort of specialist who says, I need something new. What do I love to do? What does the world need from me? What can I be paid for? What am I good at? And dig deeper, delve down, down, down. And for some people, like I said, they look at it and go, I don't need this. I can write it. I know it. Well, if you know it, then write it. If you don't know it and can't write it, then you need something to guide you. It's a roadmap to your inner self. And again, without being too philosophical or too psychological, because I'm neither a philosopher nor a psychologist, it is in each one of us. It is the amazinger thing that I'm trying to get to. The Ikigai is the thing that you perceive yourself to be, and then be better than your competitors. We compete with people all day, every day. So there are many, many different graphics of Ikigai on the internet. There are many, many articles about Ikigai. After we're done, I'll send you the link to the blog posts. I did 5 blog posts on Ikigai. And if you want to put that up, and they can follow that. It was all from a LinkedIn lens, because a lot of people need to express all of these things on LinkedIn, because what is LinkedIn? It's the roadmap of where you've came from and where you're going in your future, with a little bit of sprinkle of what you're doing today. So you've got to specify the roadmap. No one's going to do it for you anywhere as well as you're going to do it yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I appreciate you stepping us through that. I do, just as we kind of wrap up, I have a couple key questions. First is, just broadly speaking, in terms of who we, this target audience is primarily early to mid-career, somebody that has some form of responsibility, whether that's just resources as kind of a project manager or supervisor, team leader, middle manager in the organization. Knowing that, and what is your top 1, 2, maybe 3 things? Maybe it's specific to LinkedIn. What advice would you give? What would you want somebody in their mid-20s to mid-30s to consider as they look forward in their career, or maybe it's personal or professional?
Okay. Be real. Be honest. Be firm.
Okay.
Be authentic. Be relevant. If you can do all of that, and you can write that way from the true voice that you have, when somebody picks up the phone, whether it's a recruiter or it's a new colleague or it's a vendor, you can be sure that before they picked up the phone, they've read your LinkedIn profile. When you open your mouth on the phone, if you do not match the same tone and ability to express yourself that they saw on the LinkedIn profile, what goes on in their head? Buzzers. Disconnect. No, there's something wrong here. And the walls go up, and it's really hard to overcome that. So if you can have both the verbal voice and the electronic written voice, your voice, the only reason they're calling you is because they like what they saw on LinkedIn. And you can absolutely be sure that when they're calling you on LinkedIn, they're looking at your profile anyway at the same time. Yeah. You better be looking at their profile at the same time as well, because you'll have a much better conversation. Hey, Hunter, how do you know my friend so-and-so? Hey, I see you went to Vanderbilt University. Well, I have a really good friend who teaches there. Perhaps you had his course, blah, 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 on and on and on. You just find the common ground, find the ways that we connect, and you'll have a much better, intelligent phone call. Don't try to recreate the wheel every time. Use the tools and the information that's available to you.
Yeah. No,
so it's really hard to be a mid-level manager right now, because you want to be an upper-level manager someday. Well, you have to show where you came from to people who might just call you and say, hey, I saw you posting on LinkedIn. I like what you wrote. How would you like to come to my company? And these stories happen, as we all know. Or it's a recruiter who says, I fell in love with your LinkedIn profile. I have a job that might be interesting. You don't have time when you get a phone call like that to rewrite your LinkedIn profile. It's over.
Yeah.
You have to have pre-created and thought through and continuously tweak that profile so that it is you every time you morph and change. And we morph and change more often than we even realize, because we're not looking at ourselves from 30,000 feet. We're not even realizing what we're doing sometimes. So always be ready for that next phone call, that next inquiry, because you don't know when it's going to come. Mm-hmm. And finally, I don't know, be the best you can be. And people evaluate you on LinkedIn because it's the first place they go. Mm-hmm. If they Google you, what is the first, almost every time, the very first search result on Google for your name is your LinkedIn profile. And people being lazy, and we are terribly lazy, they're not going to number 17 on your Google results. They're going to number 1. Mm-hmm. And if you can't tell them in your number 1 top search result why you do what you do in your own words about how relevant and how important you are because you want to make an impression, then you've hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. It's not worth it.
Right.
Take the time.
Yeah. I appreciate that. That's awesome. So my second question and final question as we wrap things up is there a feature that you really love? Is there a favorite feature or one that you're like, man, if LinkedIn would just have X? Is there anything like that?
Well, that's a good question. I love the About section because it is open-ended. You've got 2,600 characters, including spaces. So write it on Word and let Word count the spaces to tell anything you want to tell. Mm-hmm. And this is the creative side of you. This is the honest side of you. This is how, like I said, in mine, I let other people tell about me. I use quotes about that they've given me. Mm-hmm. And everybody said, well, where did that quote come from? I'll tell you a story about it. So it becomes the guiding basis of a conversation. Mm-hmm. Wow, you got a really good conversation, a really good quote from somebody in an insurance company. Tell me, because I'm in an insurance company, I might want to hire you. Tell me about the story behind that. Mm-hmm. Be prepared to talk about everything you put on LinkedIn because you never know when somebody's going to want to know about it. Or you can refer them to it if they don't know about it yet. So I use quotes from my LinkedIn profile all the time when I send out emails. So I love the About section. I wish they gave us just a little more than 2,600 characters. Mm-hmm. But as you can tell, I'm long-winded and I say a lot. The headline used to be 120 characters, which was horrible for me. I've got 2 businesses and like 40-something years experience, and I had to collapse it all down into 120 characters. Then they gave us 220, and I want now 320. It's never enough. So it's all designed for you to use the space you're allotted. And it's actually good that they limit you down because some people would put 15,000 characters and they would just go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. Or some people would still put too little. I say use every square inch of real estate LinkedIn gives you and write to the max characters you can fit in there.
Yeah.
Make it English, make it understandable, make it verbalized.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Marc, I think I could easily go on for much longer talking about this. I'm just naturally curious about how to use this. I've shared a little bit about my story. October 2019, unexpectedly let go, 223, I don't remember, 234, somewhere around there, connections, probably knew half of them. And I was actively declining, just kind of blindly. And it's not, and I think you're a good testament to this, it's not necessarily about the number of connections, but the emphasis for me there was it was in an unexpected career pivot, and I really did not feel like I treated it like a digital resume. And so anyway, fast forward to now, I'm much more attuned and aligned with the way you embrace LinkedIn, the way you teach LinkedIn. And I love to kind of be a testament to that. So I appreciate it. It's been great to have you on. It's certainly encouraging just to kind of hear you talk about your experience, the way you handle your coaching and things like that. So I genuinely appreciate your time. And before I let you go here, definitely look forward to being a guest blog.
I'm thrilled. I really am, because normally I ask at the end and the people say, well, I don't write well. So I figured I'd put them on the spot, but I felt comfortable enough because, we have this very nice rapport and we've experienced, a few times our conversation. So yeah. I'm glad you're going to do that. For anybody else who's listening, I've given you my website, connectcollaborate.com. You can look to find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/NIN/Marc Halpert, MarcHalpert. Please do not ask me to connect because you saw this podcast. That does not qualify as doing business. You are welcome to mention the word amazinger if you want to tell me what was amazing her about this podcast, anything else you ever saw, but you're still going to have to answer how we're going to do business together, or think you might. So you're welcome to follow me, be amongst 17,000 followers at this point. Everything I put on LinkedIn you will see as a follower without being able to get into my connections. You just can tell I nurture my people. They reflect on me, I reflect on them. So it's a really important thing for me. Mm-hmm. I've had a ball here. I mean, I was wondering these things. Where did an hour go?
Right.
Hey, we just started about 5 minutes ago. What else are we going to talk about today? So for me, it's great fun. I know that I love listening to them back. Sometimes I hear myself saying, oh, I should have said that. But I think right now I got out everything I wanted. Your questions were really good. I got to say the things that I think people need to understand. And again, folks, if you got questions, email me, call me, whatever. I'll talk till you say, okay, Mark, I got to go. For me, it just comes flying out. So thank you very much, Hunter. I really appreciate it. Really had a good time.
Hey, the pleasure's on mine. It's been great. Thank you, Mark.
Good.